The way the chat works is it only goes to me and Lillian. So it's a little bit curated. Well, it's 3 p.m. Let's get going. While we wait for folks to show up, we're going to run a few polls. So just brief introductions, which I'll do again. My name's Tanya Meyer. I'm a program manager at the Resource Conservation District. And Lillian Liang is providing technical support, and she works with the California Fire Safe Council. She's a Climate Action Corps fellow. Yes, and I'm the only one that can see the chat. So that's how that's going to run. So if you're calling in on your phone, you may not be able to participate in the poll. I'm not sure if that works. The results that you give us will be anonymous to the group, although on the back end, we will be able to see them. So we'll know who said what. And some of you who were at the previous meeting may think these questions look somewhat familiar, which they do. But we wanted to capture everyone in this meeting, and there are new people attending. So Lillian, why don't you put the first poll up while we're waiting for folks to join us.
The poll should be up, and I think it may have gotten relaunched.
I can't see the poll. That's the problem. Okay.
I see.
Right.
But yeah, I'll just read it aloud. The question is, was your home affected by wildfire? And the possible answers are yes and no. So feel free to take an answer. About 70% have voted so far.
Yeah, and you're going to have to let me know how things are going since I can't see it, which is a little nerve-wracking.
Okay, so I'm sharing the results now, and it looks like a majority of people answered no, around 85% of respondees, whereas 15% of respondees said yes. And I'm gonna go ahead and launch the second question, which we'd like to know, which is what area best describes where you live? And the possible responses are Greater Winters area, Vacaville area, Fairfield area, Esparto, Capay Valley, Dunnigan, suburban, including West Sacramento, Woodland, and Davis, and other.
Great. Well, while you guys think of your answers, I want to welcome you again, if you're just joining us, to our second Yolo County Fire Safe Council meeting, stakeholder meeting. So stakeholders are defined as people who have an interest or concern in something. In this case, it's to protect the things that we value from wildfire. So whether you be working for a city or live out in the wildland urban interface, we're all concerned about this. Or if you just want good air quality. All right.
Okay, so it looks like 82% of people have voted, so I'm gonna go ahead and share the results. So it looks like we have people predominantly from the Greater Winters area, about 31% of respondees, as well as other, another 31% of respondees. Next highest is from suburban, including West Sacramento, Woodland, and Davis areas, with around 17%. Next after that, we have 7% coming from Capay Valley, 7% coming from Esparto, 5% coming from Vacaville area, 2% coming from Fairfield area, and 0% coming from Dunnigan. So I'm gonna stop sharing the results and carry on with the agenda.
Awesome. Okay. So just briefly, the technology, we're all familiar with Zoom by now, and everyone is muted. So that is good to avoid unnecessarily background noise. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on our website in a couple of days. So the chat feature will only be, you can chat to me. Some things I may share with the group, some I may just read. So you can ask questions at any time, but they'll only be answered during the question and answer session. We'll be posting lots of links in the chat during the meeting, so you can copy and paste those as needed. And we also have a resource list with a lot of the links in it as well. For best viewing, I suggest you go to the View Options tab in the upper right of your screen and choose Speaker View. And we do have an agenda. So I'm going to share my screen and go over the agenda with everyone. All right. And another thing, most people I think have received personal email invitations, or you're on our email list. When you register for the meeting, you give us your email, so we will continue, we'll add you to the list unless you specify otherwise. Okay, all right. PowerPoint, move, there we go. Okay, so we're doing welcomes and introductions and updates. And then we're going to jump right into learning about a neighboring fire safe council in Green Valley and another one in Berryessa Highlands in Napa County. And then we'll have a question and answer session with those presenters. And then we're just briefly going to touch on some of the things you can do to prepare your home for the 2021 fire season. And then we'll talk shortly about next steps, and we'll wrap the meeting up. And people who want to go or need to go can go, and then we'll just have a more informal question and answer session until 4:30. So, and again, I'm Tanya Meyer. I'm a program manager at the Yolo County RCD. Lillian Lang is providing technical support and works for the California Fire Safe Council. So I want to introduce some of the elected officials present. So Ron Turner's here from Senator Bill Dodd's office, Sarah Delgado from Assemblywoman Cecilia Aguilar Curry's office, Tara Thronson from Supervisor Don Saylor's office, Marianne Estes is here from Oscar Villegas, Supervisor Villegas' office, Monica Rivera from Supervisor Angel Barajas. Dottie Pritchard is here representing Supervisor Gary Sandy. Sitting in for Jim Provenza is Bill Weisgerber, who's the chair of the East Davis Fire Protection District. And we have Wade Cowan from the City of Winters, Mayor of the City of Winters. And I am not sure if we have folks from Solano County, but I'll let you know when I figure it out. Actually, we do. Jennifer Hamilton is here from John Vasquez's office. Excellent. Okay, so we have a brief update from the Yolo County Office of Emergency Services.
My name is Kurt Johnson. I'm with the Yolo County Office of Emergency Services. And we're just happy that this is moving along. The county, as in conjunction with the RCD, have been wanting to get the fire safe councils off the ground in conjunction with the countywide community wildfire protection plan, kind of cooperatively. So a number of our board of supervisors and their staff are going to be a continued part of this, because we are always looking to try and make the community safer. Thank you. You're on.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
That's funny. I did not mute myself. Christopher Baker is here from the California Fire Safe Council, and he'll be here to answer questions at the end. And Chris Rose is here from our neighbors in Solano County. He is the Solano RCD Executive Director. Chris, do you want to give a little update?
Yeah, just a small one. I chimed in last time. We're kind of following our sister RCD to the north in Yolo and starting this process. You'll hear from a few other people. Rochelle has a fire safe council going and has been going for a couple of years. but we're really fired up to get something going countywide. So I've been working with Solano County folks and just really starting this process. So I'm learning from this process in hopes of starting a similar process in Solano within the next few months. So I, like many of you, are learning.
Great, thank you, Chris.
Mhm.
And Heather Nichols, our executive director here, is going to give us a brief update on the formation of our countywide Fire Safe Council.
Great, thanks, Tanya. Thanks for being here, everyone. We are working with the Office of Emergency Services and the County of Yolo to formalize this Fire Safe Council, a countywide Fire Safe Council. And the reason why we're doing this now is because we have CAL FIRE funding to support our time, because it's a need, and there's a lot of funding coming to support coming from various sources to support community fire safe councils, which you're going to learn about today, and also to support, countywide efforts throughout the county. So we want to set, we're working on setting ourselves up to be able to support all the wildfire prevention efforts that need to happen in the county, so that we can get those resources and get them out to work on the ground. So the Countywide Fire Safe Council is in the process of being formalized. I don't have a major update on that, other to say that we're trying to figure it out. We're talking with other counties that have countywide fire safe councils and learning from them and learning how to best set that up. The RCD administers all kinds of grant funds for various natural resource issues in the county. So we're all set up to help out with that. Our board of directors is very excited about serving the community, and our county is working really closely with us. So that's the main thing. The goal is to be support for all these efforts going that need to go down in your neighborhoods and communities. And I will keep this group updated as we develop that. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we're going to jump right in to our next presentation. I'm really excited to introduce Rochelle Sherlock from the Green Valley Fire Safe Council. She's going to talk about what they do and how they formed and who they are. Rochelle is a small business owner. She's an entrepreneur and a community advocate. As a community advocate, she utilizes her experience in leadership, organizational effectiveness, and community engagement to build the capacity of the social sector and address community gaps. She's founded or co-founded over a dozen collaboratives, programs, and initiatives. She started the wildfire preparedness in Solano County, and together with CAL FIRE and community residents, she co-founded the Green Valley Fire Safe Council. Rochelle has a master's in organizational development and will be completing her doctorate at the George Washington University this year. So, Rochelle, I'm going to share my screen of your PowerPoint. So take it away.
All right, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and excited to see that there's such an interest to begin to address this. So, as she said, my name is Rochelle Sherlock. I actually am married to Joe Sherlock, who is the regional silviculturist for the U.S. Forest Service. And probably almost 2 decades ago, we lived up in the Sierra Nevadas where fire was a regular occurrence. And when we moved down here where the regional office was in the city of Vallejo on Mare Island, I thought, oh, no forest, no fires, no problem. But, as you see on the first slide, the reality really hit in 2017 with, and if you could advance the slide, Tanya, hit in 2017 with the Tubbs fire. And personally, I was just like stunned that the fire could jump the freeway and could demolish all of these homes in neighborhoods that look like pretty well-established homes. We fast forward to the 2018 Camp Fire and destroying nearly the entire city of Paradise and another community. And so on the next slide there, and then going to the next slide after that would be, really kind of some of the things that were happening closer to home. So next slide. I became gravely aware and gravely concerned about what was going on in Solano County. Nobody was doing anything in terms of education, in terms of engaging the community to begin to address this. And a couple of these fires that were closer to home really made me kind of move to action. Next slide. So I actually, through my husband, I said, who do I contact? What do I need to do? And he actually put me in touch with CAL FIRE, and I can't sing CAL FIRE's praises enough. I got an opportunity to connect with Battalion Chief Aaron Latta, and he and I actually have been, I would say, kind of like joined at the hip since the summer of 2019 in this effort for the Fire Safe Council and Solano County. What we did was we started by organizing a community wildfire preparedness meeting in the Green Valley area. And as you can see in the upper left-hand corner there, it was a pretty full house. We had a lot of people who were very concerned and interested. And at that meeting, I did a call to action to form the Fire Safe Council. So next slide. We had our first meeting in November of 2019. So that wildfire preparedness meeting was in October. And one of the things that Chief Latta and I wanted to do from the very get-go was actually, let's start here and let's expand and make sure people are getting the education and the information that they need. What we know is that you actually have to collaborate and you have to partner with people in order to be really competitive for the grants and really to understand what the local realities and needs are so that the strategies and solutions can be tailored to that. So when we formed, we're a collaborative consisting of residents and community members, CAL FIRE, Cordelia Protection District, and others. We actually have a Fairfield Deputy Fire Chief on our council now. And our purpose is to enhance wildfire survivability through resident education, home hardening, and hazardous fuel reductions for a fire safe Solano. It's really kind of our vision. Next slide. So just quickly, I think one of the things, in looking at this is we move quickly. I am an organizational development and effectiveness consultant, so I know how to bring a group together. I know how to get us very focused on the same goal, to assess what are the kind of knowledge gaps, and quickly we just tapped into the experts, right? So we had Cordelia Fire Protection District, we had Battalion Chief Latta, and gave us a lot of education. We did a risk assessment training right away. It was one of the first things we did. A couple of us went to a formal wildland fire risk assessment training, a couple-day training. We recognized we needed to set up a FireWise site. So we started the FireWise process. And throughout this, I'm just doing a tremendous amount of research to make sure that I knew what we needed to do, what were the goals and objectives, what were the requirements and the eligibility in order to become a FireWise site. So we mapped it out, identified our parameters, and ultimately we conducted a community wildfire risk assessment of 450 properties, which is roughly half of the properties, actually a little bit more than half of the properties that are in the FireWise site. We developed a wildfire risk reduction action plan and submitted our FireWise application in May. We got a community chipping grant program, and we received the FireWise designation in July. So next slide. So some of the things that we've done, and when you think about the benefits of bringing people together, there's multiple benefits. Like my video background, this was created by one of our members who actually has some talents in design. And quickly together, we were able to leverage the different and unique talents of everyone to begin to have things happen. So we did a lot of public education and awareness, including newsletters that went out. Obviously, we're highlighted in the Daily Republic as the model in Solano County, and I've held several wildfire webinars and trainings, as well as probably almost over a dozen now community presentations to civic groups. Next slide. We got the grant, which was so exciting, and we started a community chipping program. I made lots of conversations and lots of calls to different groups and a lot of research again on what works for a community chipping program. And you can see there in the bottom, there's an intersection of two roads that really are in the center of the FireWise area, the site location. And so one of our members and Chief Dave Carpenter from the Cordelia Fire Protection District built this bulletin board for us. So it's just restricted for wildfire safety and fire prevention. Next slide. There we go. This is just a real high level of a timeline, but you know, we move quick. There's a certain level of urgency, and people need to know that their homes and properties are at risk, that they are potentially at risk. And so we've accomplished a lot of things. Within 5 months from our first meeting, we had conducted that wildland risk assessment and, you know, developed our plan. Next slide. It's just a list of our achievements. I'm not going to go over all of those. We've got a lot of things in the hopper. I think one of the challenges of, you know, fire safe councils is that you really have to rely on the volunteer work. And I would say that, you know, there have been times that I've put 30 hours a week in this effort, and when we're starting these different initiatives, and on average, I'm spending at least 12 to 15 hours a week, just ongoing programs, making sure that we're having the meetings, the coordination, the education, et cetera. Next slide. But the rewards are amazing. So we do a lot with partners. I think just a couple of things that we're working on right now is, you know, I had this idea that if we could find a way to incentivize homeowners the same way that FireWise incentivize fire safe councils or communities with the FireWise designation, then maybe they can begin to advertise the good work that they're doing to try to create wildfire safety in their homes and in their communities. So we've got this fire hardened property sign. We're working through what that means for people to earn it. And those are just kind of prototypes and drafts. We're doing a mailer to everybody that's in the FireWise site. We're doing defense. We have defensible space ambassadors who can go out. These are, you know, myself and a couple of members of the Fire Safe Council who will actually go out and meet with residents. And I'll walk them through the assessment using, you know, CAL FIRE's LE 100 assessment and really making sure there's resources. And CAL FIRE is just, again, incredible. We have the Share the Bin initiative that we're doing, and we're getting ready to have a free green waste day actually on May 1st, which is National Wildfire Preparedness Day. Evacuation door signs and then reflective address signs that are moving forward. And next slide. So there's a lot we got accomplished. I think if we tap into the talents and passion, we have a common goal and we're working together and really bridging the partnerships and the ideas and bringing our resources together, then you can get a lot accomplished. We're not even a year and a half old as a council. You know, the initial planning started in the summer of 2019, but again, that was just Chief Lotta and myself. And that's it. That's my presentation. And I know there'll be an opportunity for questions a little later. So thank you.
Wow, thank you, Rochelle. So we've got your contact info here, which is great. And then I will share it in the chat. Wow. Okay, so questions will be later. I'd now like to introduce our next neighbor Fire Safe Council, which is Evan Kilkus is from the Berryessa. He's there from the Berryessa Highlands. He's been the volunteer project coordinator with the Berryessa Highlands Fire Safe Council since 2011, so a little bit older. Volunteers and CAL FIRE work crews have added 5 miles of shaded field breaks around their neighborhood of 350 homes. That effort involved 250 days of work, or about 18,000 hours of hard labor, resulting in over 125 acres treated around their 500-acre neighborhood. So homeowners have removed tens of thousands of cubic yards of brush, trees, and overgrown landscaping from around their homes. Evan has a degree in hospitality and tourism management from San Francisco State and a love for vacationing and living at Lake Berryessa. And his goal's been to help his neighbors enjoy the beauty of living in a safe forest by the lake. He also reports for the Lake Berryessa News in Eastern Napa County and has started a business, Complete Wildfire Defense LLC, to help landowners prepare for wildfire. So he is a true testimony to the statement that wildfire preparedness is possible and it matters. So he has a brief PowerPoint also.
Sounds good. Thanks for that intro. And yeah, there's a lot of results that can happen and are possible at small community levels and at the larger community levels. So I'm excited to be able to be here to share with you our experience from our Fire Safe Council. And I do think Yolo County plus the communities are on a great track here to make some stuff happen. First, to go answer the basic questions. who are we? We are neighbors and stakeholders, which in our case is neighbors. And we, from the beginning, have been working with CAL FIRE to come up with the plans and strategies. I have to say, like, Rochelle's presentation basically sums it up so beautifully, and they definitely hit the ground running. And she's just they're just scratching the surface on preparation. After a decade here in our neighborhood, we've done lots and lots of work, and in the recent fires, it paid off. How are we formed? Basically, we were a bunch of neighbors that met on the side of the road. Our countywide Fire Safe Council brought us to hosted a meeting in our community and helped us kind of neighbors come together, gave us a structure, and they said, go for it. The structure is pretty simple and it's worth writing down. First, you need a vegetation assessment. Second, you need a community wildfire protection plan, which is a community plan for a community of any size. And that community CWPP, it involves your stakeholders, including CAL FIRE, property owners, board of supervisors, people that are going to say that, yeah, these are this community wildfire protection plan is a good plan. And these are some good projects specifically. And then that CWPP and those list of projects basically give you the ability to be shovel ready to go after grants and make stuff happen. So we were formed just by a bunch of neighbors meeting on the side of the road. We got a forester to do a vegetation assessment. Then we met with the fire department and other stakeholders to come up with a plan, and we're ready to go. So for the last decade, we've done projects, small and large. Funding wise and crew wise, we utilized something that's extremely wonderful and hard to get, and that is CAL FIRE inmate hand crews. So we use them to do a lot of the work, and that allowed us to get a lot of work done for cheap. So we've been using local small grants from our countywide Fire Safe Council to do a lot of the projects. But just recently, we actually got a large grant, a $60,000 grant from the California Fire Safe Council. So we just finished implementing that large grant, which wasn't easy, but it was doable. And there's lots more that can be said on that topic. But in general, that's who we are and how we formed. What we do is two things, and this is really important for everybody to enjoy right off the bat, is what we do is, we do projects, but really before we even do projects, we first do community outreach. So for me as a Fire Safe Council lead, I go to all my neighbors and I get everybody involved. I educate them as to what the projects are going to be, what's needed, and I get them on board. Then I bring the fire department in or other stakeholders to get their blessings, to get their confirmation that what we're doing is in alignment with our CWPP and vegetation assessment. And then we get to do the projects. But there's a lot of community outreach involved. And then in general, when it comes to incentives and benefits of starting a Fire Safe Council, of course, you get the incentive is you get grants and you get money, federal or state grants, which in theory, there are going to be more and more of these days. And then the benefit is you get great work and you save homes. So whether it's Winters or Esparto, you do these large scale projects, you get homeowners involved and you get grants and you make it happen. We've done it in Napa County for a decade in about 15 different Fire Safe Councils. So it's very doable. And now briefly, I'm going to show a 5-slide presentation here. This is what we gave at a meeting, at a general meeting about 5 years ago. And we identified strengths and weaknesses. So you guys will be interested in knowing that you're going to experience challenges and you're going to experience things that are going to make it easy. So be ready to have a solid community wildfire protection plan. That way you've got a solid footing when you want to go out and do projects. Communicate and have easy neighbors and align with good vendors. Have a spark plug like myself or Rochelle, who's really going to put a lot of effort into keeping this project going consistently. Because know that your weaknesses may include like hard to get volunteers and limited budget and crew availability. Also opportunities, there's lots of work to be done out there. And there are landowners that would love to have free work done. Threats might include, or challenges might include, air quality regulations, which are, these are manageable, or challenging conditions for getting work done. And of course, cumbersome requirements when it comes to government regulations. Here's an example of our community, or this is our community, a map that shows the blue shaded area is area that we were treating. So just to kind of show where we were at, even 5 years ago, we had already done a significant amount of perimeter fire break. And then we started adding more work. But I was told by our local battalion chief once to focus on what's around and below homes and less on random fire breaks, because it's always going to be very labor intensive to do work. But you focus on hot spots that are within the center or near homes or clusters of homes. You focus on work right near them as much as possible. And that's where it's going to be most impactful when a fire does burn through that region. Here's a good example of us again working, just removing brush and creating all that open space. All of that lime green grass covered open space in both of those photos was pure shamish, pure 10-foot tall brush before we did most of the work. The homeowners did their strips below their homes up to 100 feet. And then we would use CAL FIRE crews to cut and pile and burn. We've done a lot of cutting and piling and burning up in this region. It's the best and fastest, easiest way to get material to vanish. And then again, this presentation was actually a funding request where we planned, where we were asking for funding for future work. But I want to draw attention to the chart at the bottom, where for as little as $5,000 to $10,000, we were clearing, let's see, acres cleared. We were clearing 10 to 15 acres a year. So start small and go big and go from there. I think that's about all for me because that really sums it up. I want to, again, we're closed by saying it works, make it happen, but it takes a lot of dedication on the Fire Safe Council's side. But when you do the community outreach and you get the homeowners to take responsibility for their part of the job, it really all comes together nicely. And ditto to everything again that Rochelle said. She was on it. Thank you.
Great. Okay. We have about 10 minutes for folks to ask questions of our local experts. So if you want to type things into the chat, I will share them with the group. And I don't have anybody seated in the audience, so I'm waiting. I do want to let you know that we are working on a community wildfire protection plan for the whole county. So that is happening. It is a little bit of a longer process, so we won't have one in hand for a year or two, but we have a steering committee and we had a meeting this morning and we're doing a wildfire assessment. So we're moving along on that route as well. Okay, I have a question for Rochelle or Evan. Questions are pouring in. That's awesome. Okay. How do you deal with absentee landowners not taking care of their brush and fuels? Good question.
Rochelle?
Well, that's something that we actually want to tackle, because while there's CAL FIRE or Cordillera Fire Protection District can actually do an assessment and leave notices of code violations, we really need Solano County to actually have code enforcement. So that needs to be one of the things that needs to be included, active code enforcement. I know that some of the cities in Solano County have active code enforcement, but so that's a piece of it. But beyond that, the approach we've been taking right now has been really trying to motivate and inspire people a little bit through peer pressure, right? So when their neighbors are taking care of things, if they have these signs on their garbage cans that say share the bin, or this is a fire hardened property, or whatever the case may be, that people will begin to kind of step up voluntarily. But ultimately, we need code enforcement.
Yeah, I would agree. Code enforcement's unfortunately the best solution. Napa County, we have the Napa County Fire Marshal's Office that provides pretty thorough code enforcement. Because as we know, it's the law, if you live in the WUI, that you must have certain clearance setbacks, and you must maintain grass and weed whacking when your property is within 100 feet of anybody's home, including your own. So code enforcement is a good fallback, and typically CAL FIRE will simply suggest that no problem, just call the local CAL FIRE station and let them know that your neighbor's house has some issues. And I like to say, and that neighbor needs some help, and they need education, because the CAL FIRE firefighter will always go over there and say, hey, you need to do this, and let me educate you as to why. And if it's a small one-off situation, then there's a simple solution. And then in the big picture, as Rochelle said, outreach, through the education and outreach process, often people will start complying because they recognize the value in the work.
Great, thank you. And Evan, how did the fire breaks handle the LNU fire, your fire breaks?
Great question. The fire breaks initially helped keep the fire out of the community on the first night. So they basically worked. The second day, when 5 counties were on fire across the Bay Area, the fire did jump one of the initial lines that were created. And then the fire burnt through the core of the Highlands. Because of community, certain homeowners took intensive responsibility and gave themselves every fighting chance they could. And some homes didn't. But combining the homeowners doing their part, plus in central shaded field break work that we've done, 2/3 of the neighborhood is still here. So the fire could have burnt through the entire neighborhood twice, but the firefighters kept it out the first night, and then firefighters, with what resources they had, they were able to defend 200 homes from flames in their backyards because of the defensible space. So if there is such thing as an experiment of defensible space, it's our neighborhood, and Circle Oaks and the Bay Area Estates. There are 3 Eastern Napa County neighborhoods that have had 200 to 300 days of work done around them. And between the Atlas fire and the LNU fire, they've been tested.
Wow, thanks. This question sort of relates to an earlier one. What if the neighboring land has no house and an absent landowner? Who's responsible for the 100-foot strip?
A CAL FIRE member in the audience could correct me but I think that no matter what, the homeowner is responsible for, or the landowner is responsible for maintaining their land within 100 feet of adjacent homes.
Okay.
I can jump in on that.
Oh, good.
For Public Resource Code 42901, that's the state law that addresses defensible space. It's 100 feet up to the property line. So if you have a adjacent lot, as far as state law is concerned, with no landowner on it, and that's within 100 feet of the structure, The law just has you take care of your own property and does not address the neighboring property and the fuel within 100 feet. Now, local ordinances do go above and beyond. Napa County does have an ordinance that will require the adjacent landowner to clear within 100 feet of the structure on the other side of the property line, if that makes sense. But that's a local ordinance that meets and exceeds state law.
Great, thank you, Tom. There you have it
Thank you.
from CAL FIRE. Changing gears a little bit, grants, this question is, grants appear to be the best reason to organize a formal fire safe council. How difficult has it been to get a grant?
So I can just, because we're the newbie here, and then Evan can elaborate. So we were very strategic. What we knew we needed to do is we knew we needed to have that community wildfire risk assessment done, that we were more competitive if we had a Firewise site, that we actually had an action plan that we could speak to. And so when we finally got all that finished, the vast majority of the grants had already come and gone. So we were able to apply for one through the California Fire Foundation for $15,000. And that's the one that we were able to get for our community chipping program. And then just kind of, again, it's all about, from our perspective, is about positioning ourselves strategically to go after those grants. We had incredible outcomes. We rolled it out with just rave reviews, served over 60 residents. And I didn't bring the cubic feet of fuel that we removed, but we removed a lot, and including really within that zone 1 and zone 2 of the defensible space. So we did an evaluation, but I think it's like really understanding what the grantor is looking for, building those partnerships, making sure you're doing the assessment, you got an action plan, being very strategic in the positioning. At least that's my experience so far. Small grant, hoping to get a bigger one coming up.
Great, thank you. Evan, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I would agree that it's all about having your ducks in a row. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
I'm breaking apart a little bit here.
Yeah.
Okay, hopefully I'm back. As Rochelle was saying, it's all about having your ducks in a row. All right, let me change my settings and I come back to me on that.
Yeah,
please,
turn off your
'cause I've been
video.
breaking up.
So
Wi-Fi.
while Evan's fixing that, the Resource Conservation District, we manage a lot of grants and have been writing grants for many years. And we will be writing grants for projects that the County Fire Safe Council can share with the local fire safe councils for on-the-ground projects. Okay. We can see you again, Evan.
I'm back. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I can answer the question about the grants because that's an important question. And to double check, sorry, can you hear me still? Good, perfect. So as Rochelle was saying, it's about having your ducks in a row. You got to have you can't ask for money if they don't know that you're going to spend it properly. And in our case, we applied for a federal grant back in 2013 and 2012, and we didn't get it, and we were very frustrated, but we were still a young and new organization, so they didn't trust us with $100,000, which kind of makes sense. So you start by getting all your ducks in a row, the vegetation assessment, have shovel-ready projects, and then you kind of, what I think the direction Yolo County is going is going to be beneficial to everybody, because if you have a central fire safe council that's coordinated by the Yolo County RCD, then utilizing the Yolo County RCD as a fiscal sponsor can help add to the trustworthiness of your grant request. So if you're a fire safe council that is self-sufficient, and maybe it works with the city of Winters and it's a large enough fire safe council, they can be their own fiscal sponsor. Within 2 to 3 years, maybe you prove your trustworthiness and you can go after that federal grant. If you're a smaller community and you tie yourselves with the Yolo County Fire Safe Council and get grants that way, then in time you can earn the privilege of going after these federal grants. That would be a general answer I would give, and then say that then it's up to the Yolo County RCD and Tanya and Heather and so on to come up with the future discussions and plans as to how you guys will go after federal grants. But that's, I think, a general way to look at it. Considering there's 60 people here from all over the place, I want to be cautious with the way I'd say that, like, it's not super easy to get grants. You got to be prepared, but when you're prepared, it is then very doable.
Great, thank you. So we are right on time and ready to move on to our next presenter. And remember, we will have another half an hour at 4 o'clock to ask more questions. Okay, let's see, multitasking, never good. So our next speaker, Tracy Cattleman, has been working with fire for many years. She has a small business for evergreen forestry in Woodland. She's on our steering committee for our community wildfire protection plan and has been an amazing resource. She has a PowerPoint on what you can do to prepare for the 2021 fire season. So Tracy, take it away.
Thanks, and really impressive presentations, Rochelle and Evan. That's so exciting to see what y'all are doing and what's possible here in Yolo. So I want to talk just a little bit about the fact that fire season's coming up. You know, it was windy yesterday. Likely going to be another really tough fire season with wind-driven fires that are likely to generate ember storms like what you're seeing here on the screen. The good news is that there's a lot you can do to prepare your home and family for upcoming fires. We can all work towards and become fire adapted communities. So in addition to making sure that you have your go bag and your family evacuation and communication plan ready, and you can get more information about that from the CAL FIRE website. I think Lillian's going to put that in the chat, readyforwildfire.org. You can harden your home and you can create defensible space around your home and property before fire season. So let's go ahead and move on to the next slide, please. So there are 3 ways that homes catch fire, basically. And I'm probably preaching somewhat to the choir, but briefly, it's ember storms, radiant heat, and direct flame. And ember storms is what we're really seeing a lot lately with this wind-driven fire. So embers get forcibly blown into tiny places and they can smolder and catch fire. So that's why it's so important, why we always talk about keeping your roofs clean and your gutters clean throughout fire season. What can happen is you get this ember storm raining down, and if embers land in your gutter and there are leaves in there, they can generate enough heat that the fire can actually then move under the edge of your roof and get into your roof. And once your roof catches fire, basically, it's really hard to save your house. That's firefighters tend to have to leave it and go to the next house. It's all triage. So first thing I recommend is that you walk around your home tonight or this weekend and look for places where small, fast-moving embers might be able to get blown in. And you can cover those small openings with caulking or larger ones with mesh and solid materials. And there's like cracks in between. Maybe you have a door down below or whatever it may be, vents. You definitely want to make sure all your vents are covered with mesh, things like that. And Lillian's also going to post a link that CAL FIRE has of 10 low-cost things you can do to retrofit your home to harden your home. So second is radiant heat. And radiant heat is where there's enough heat generated by something nearby that's hot. And that's the slide that Rochelle shared about the Tubbs fire in Coffey Park. So if you live within 10 feet of another house, if your house is within 10 feet or another house, or you're in a mobile home, those are places where your siting is going to be very important. So that's those home-to-home or house-to-house ignitions. We tend to only see that in those urban, suburban areas, but we're seeing more of that lately. So be thinking about that in terms of how close there are things that could really catch fire and generate a lot of heat next to your house. And then third is direct flame. And surprisingly, it's not that common for the flaming front to ignite your home because usually the flaming front passes by pretty quickly. So if you think about your house like you do in building a fire, if you put a big log on a fire and you try to light a log, it's generally not going to light no matter how hard you try. You have to put some kindling around it. And so that's like how you can think about your house. Your house is that big log, and your job is to make sure that you don't have the little, what we call flashy, flammable fuels around it that are your kindling to get your house to ignite. So that's things like patio furniture, or your decorated pine cones and baskets and flammable plants, and anything else within that first 5 feet of your home. Direct flames will also ignite your house if fire can get inside your house. So that could be through an open window or a window that cracks in a fire. I'll talk about in just a minute. A pet door that hasn't been closed properly before fire. Under your garage door, we see that. Flames coming, pushing under a garage door because it doesn't have a good seal. Anything like that. So it's really important to make sure everything can be really completely sealed tight before an oncoming fire. So a home that will not allow embers to enter and will not easily ignite is what we refer to as a hardened home. And like I said, there are so many things you can do to retrofit your home before fire season. And the 3 links that Lillian just shared will help you get started. There's really a lot you can do basically over the next couple months to get ready. And so I encourage you tonight, this weekend, walk around your house and think about how permeable or impermeable is it to flames and embers, and where could wind-driven flames or embers ignite or get into your home, and find those and fix them now, ideally over the next couple months. So next, and this picture on the right is a good example. You don't want to be having like storing boxes and firewood under your deck because that's kindling to light your house. So let's go on to the next slide. So then we talk about the concept of defensible space, and Evan mentioned this already, and hopefully you've heard about it a lot. And if you live in SRA, the state responsibility area, which basically means an unincorporated area, and you live around fire, then you are required by law, as Tom mentioned, to have 100 feet of defensible space or up to the property line as per 4291. So it's the law, you have to do it. And it makes sense. It's your best insurance is to do your home hardening and your defensible space. And we've learned in recent years with the recent fires that first 5 feet is so important. And that's why that became part of our defensible space law this year, is that there's a 0 to 5, I forget the exact term we call it, but basically nothing flammable in the first 5 feet of your home. And so that if there's only one thing you can do, work on sealing your house, like start from the home out and then look at that first 5 feet around your home. You don't want anything there that's going to be flammable, especially if it's around a window or a dog door. What we saw in Paradise is that plants, so homes that had been built to the latest WUI codes, had plants under their windows, and the embers landed in those plants, generated enough heat to crack the windows, even though they were double pane, strong windows, and then the fire got into the house. So be thinking about look at your house and get everything away that's flammable. And, we can also think about it's kind of a cultural shift we have to do. Instead of having all your vegetation, everything pretty wrapped up against your house, push it out, and then you can see it from inside your house as well as your neighbors seeing it. So also then there's this concept of fuel continuity. And so as you walk around your home and property, think about this concept of basically, do you have a horizontal fuse of fuels that can connect your home to the wildlands? So that could be like trees in the forest. You definitely don't want trees touching a wooden deck or a wooden fence that's then touching your wooden house. That's a good example of horizontal fuel continuity. And you want to separate those as much as you can. One of the big things we're seeing is if you've got a wooden fence, change the gate between the side of your house and the wooden fence, put in a non-flammable metal or other kind of gate that's not going to connect your wooden fence to your house. Vertical fuel continuity is this concept of ladder fuel. So fire on the ground can be moving through the grass, and maybe it's a low fire, and then it'll literally climb up the fuel ladder into shrubs and then into the tops of trees, and then it can move into your home. So that's also the work we do when we're doing shaded fuel breaks and that kind of thing, is to try to remove that and reduce that fuel ladder, especially around homes. So on the next hot and windy day, which I think we may have very soon, think about me walking around your home and throwing lit wooden matches around your property. So are you gonna be able to sit there and chill with your lemonade or your beer and just be like, hey, that's cool, no problem, I'm not worried. If so, then you've likely got a hardened home, a good hardened home in defensible space. If you're gonna be freaking out and say, no, stop, don't throw matches there, then that's a good clue as to where you want to start doing your work and that you have work to do. So think about removing all that kindling or flammable, flashy fuels around your house and with 100 feet of your home, and that will give you a much better chance to survive. So super fast kind of overview. Let's go to the next slide. We put together a list of resources, which let's see if I can zoom into this so I can even see this to talk to you about it. We put together a list of resources and we're going to continue to add to this. And this is available in the Google Drive that Lillian is going to put in the chat as well. And the Fire Safe Council, it'll be on the Fire Safe Council RCD website, all that eventually. Information on how to start a Fire Safe Council, a lot of great information about preparing for fire. There's the California Fire Safe Council brochures that I showed you pictures of. There's the CAL FIRE sites. UC Cooperative Extension has great stuff. And then there are other resources throughout Northern California. Humboldt County just last week launched a document for tips for rural landowners that's really good. And Mendo and Sonoma and Napa all have some great information. Jack Cohen, watch the Jack Cohen video. If there's nothing else you do, go and watch that Jack Cohen video. He talks about the home ignition zone, and he's the one that really started a lot of this research. And then if you want to be doing more in terms of your Fire Safe Council and developing fire adapted communities, we've got some links there. So with that, I will stop.
Awesome. Awesome, Tracy. That is like the tip of the iceberg, but a great way for people to start thinking about preparing for the season. So we're a tiny bit behind schedule. We do have some polls to run now that you have heard about the possibility of starting a Fire Safe Council. Lillian, can you do polls while I have screen sharing, or do I need to stop?
Oh, you should be good.
Okay.
So the next poll question should be up. It is, are you interested in helping to start or join a local Fire Safe Council for your community? And this question is multiple choice, so you can select multiple of these options if multiple of them apply to your opinion. So the options are, yes, I'd like to help start a local FSC in my community. Yes, I'd like to be a leader for my local Fire Safe Council. Please include me in a special training meeting for starting a community Fire Safe Council. And if you select this one, please send Tanya your email address. And next is, I'd like to be a part of the local Fire Safe Council in my community. And finally, I'll tell you in the chat what local FSC I'd like to lead or join.
Yes, if you guys can answer these questions, as you can see on the timeline screen, we are planning a training sometime in mid-April, either the 13th or 14th, depending on what folks, what can capture the most majority of people, to do a training to start a Fire Safe Council. And spark plug is a term, a Fire Safe Council leader is called a spark plug. So that meeting will be determined to capture the most people. And while you guys are doing your poll, I'll also mention our next meeting, our next Fire Safe, our countywide Fire Safe Council meeting will be April 28th, a month from now. And then we'll just be continuing to support Fire Safe Councils, and we'll keep working on our community wildfire protection plan. And submit funding as the opportunities emerge, etc. Cool, and people are sending me their emails. That's awesome.
Good to know. So it looks like about 45% of attendees have responded to this one, but the number is staying kind of stable. So I'll wait another 10 seconds before I end the poll and share the results in case anyone wants to get their
Awesome.
last word in.
Yes. trying to decide whether or not you want to commit. Don't worry, we won't hold your feet to the flames. Haha.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and end this poll. So about half of people attending responded, and let's see, the top chosen answer is I'd like to be a part of a local FSC in my community with 72% of respondents. About 44% of people are interested in attending a special training meeting for starting a fire safe council. And so I hope you get all of their email addresses, and if not, we can check the answer to these polls later. 36% have said, yes, I'd like to help start a local fire safe council in my community. 12% said, I'll tell you in the chat what local FSC I'd like to lead or join. And finally, 8% said they'd like to be a leader for their local fire safe council, which is super awesome.
Thank you, everyone. Wow, okay. There is going to be a fire safe council meeting in June or July in Solano County, Christopher Rose says, which is awesome. We have been sort of paralleling our work getting this going. And Lillian, we have another poll regarding communication platforms too, if you want to launch that one.
Sure.
And while
I'm
you
gonna
do
launch that one.
Yeah, while you do that, I'm going to let you know that actually Rochelle and Tracy and I are coordinating a deeper dive into preparing for the season. So here's a flyer that's happening April 26th, 4 p.m. So we're hoping to capture folks who are working during the day. It's going to be a webinar. We're going to have CAL FIRE. Chief Lada will be joining us. We have a draft agenda, but we can put this information in the chat as well, or I can send it to you. And again, remember, this is being recorded, and we'll send you the link so you can rewatch this or send it to other interested people. So I think you're launching the next poll, but I can't see it.
Yeah, no worries. I did launch the next poll, and I'll just read off the question again. What platform do you prefer to use to receive communications? And this one again is multiple choice, which means you can select multiple modes of communication if you prefer to receive multiple modes of communication. And looks like about 70% of people have voted already. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll once again and share the results. So 100% of respondents said they want to get emails.
Oh, yay.
And 6% of people also said that they want to see a Facebook.
Okay, so we are working on a Facebook page, which we thought would be easy, but we're having a few technical difficulties. I thank you, Lillian. I put in the chat let me know what topics you'd like to hear at the April meeting. This is the group April meeting, not the April training meeting. And that is it for this meeting. So please don't leave unless you have to, if you want to stay and ask some more questions.